Depression is the leading cause of disability in the world. In the United States, close to 10% of adults struggle with depression. But because it's a mental illness, it can be a lot harder to understand than, say, high cholesterol. One major source of confusion is the difference between having depression and just feeling depressed. Almost everyone feels down from time to time. Getting a bad grade, losing a job, having an argument, even a rainy day can bring on feelings of sadness. Sometimes there's no trigger at all. It just pops up out of the blue. Then circumstances change, and those sad feelings disappear. Clinical depression is different. It's a medical disorder, and it won't go away just because you want it to. It lingers for at least 2 consecutive weeks and significantly interferes with one's ability to work, play, or love. Depression can have a lot of different symptoms: a low mood, loss of interest in things you'd normally enjoy, changes in appetite, feeling worthless or excessively guilty, sleeping either too much or too little, poor concentration, restlessness or slowness, loss of energy, or recurrent thoughts of suicide. If you have at least 5 of those symptoms, according to psychiatric guidelines, you qualify for a diagnosis of depression. And it's not just behavioral symptoms. Depression has physical manifestations inside the brain. First of all, there are changes that could be seen with the naked eye and X-ray vision. These include smaller frontal lobes and hippocampal volumes. On a more micro scale, depression is associated with a few things: the abnormal transmission or depletion of certain neurotransmitters, especially serotonin, norepinephrine, and dopamine, blunted circadian rhythms, or specific changes in the REM and slow wave parts of your sleep cycle, and hormone abnormalities, such as high cortisol and deregulation of thyroid hormones. But neuroscientists still don't have a complete picture of what causes depression. It seems to have to do with a complex interaction between genes and environment, but we don't have a diagnostic tool that can accurately predict where or when it will show up. And because depression's symptoms are intangible, it's hard to know who might look fine but is actually struggling. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, it takes the average person suffering with a mental illness over 10 years to ask for help. But there are very effective treatments. Medications and therapy complement each other to boost brain chemicals. In extreme cases, electroconvulsive therapy, which is like a controlled seizure in the patient's brain, is also very helpful. Other promising treatments, like transcranial magnetic stimulation, are being investigated too. So if you know someone struggling with depression, encourage them, gently, to seek out some of these options. You might even offer to help with specific tasks, like looking up therapists in the area or making a list of questions to ask a doctor. To someone with depression, these first steps can seem insurmountable. If they feel guilty or ashamed, point out that depression is a medical condition, just like asthma or diabetes. It's not a weakness or a personality trait, and they shouldn't expect themselves to just get over it, any more than they could will themselves to get over a broken arm. If you haven't experienced depression yourself, avoid comparing it to times you've felt down. Comparing what they're experiencing to normal temporary feelings of sadness can make them feel guilty for struggling. Even just talking about depression openly can help. For example, research shows that asking someone about suicidal thoughts actually reduces their suicide risk. Open conversations about mental illness help erode stigma and make it easier for people to ask for help. And the more patients seek treatment, the more scientists will learn about depression, and the better the treatments will get.
Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Speak Your Mind. On this beautiful Friday night, we bring to you another topic where you, the viewer, wherever it is that you watch us here in Toronto, in Canada, all around the world, can be able to sound off on your opinion. In today's topic, we are talking about depression. Do you think that it is a silent personal struggle, or do you think that it is a cry for help? I am not here by myself, but I am here with Lupita. Lupita, this person can give us a call already, 877-785-8700, or even through WhatsApp, 437-233-9815. And we're going to be reading their comments, we're going to be speaking to them, and then we're going to read a little bit about our poll, correct?
Yes. Yes, we're going to be speaking about everything that's about this topic with depression. We know that there's a lot of people that have their own opinion on it, and you'll definitely have the poll through our Speak Your Mind channel. So you could definitely go ahead and vote. We have the different types of questions right on it, and you could definitely cast it because we're going to be here commenting a little bit more about what everyone has to say about this topic.
And so, yeah, that was a little, you all right? Is that she's new here. So everybody who is used to the Speak Your Mind world, Lupita's a little bit new, but it's fine. You can scan the QR code in the bottom of your screen. But first and foremost, we want to go to the street of Toronto to see what it was that they had to say about our topic. Pay attention. We'll be right back.
Do you know anyone that has struggled with depression?
I have. I know a few individuals, and like, I was not a believer in depression myself, but however, I do believe that people go through hard times, and that it's definitely a struggle.
Have you ever experienced depression yourself?
Yeah, I suffered all my life with depression since I was 12 years old.
And in your opinion, what are some of the misconceptions people have about depression?
Some people have depression according to what they face, and some people don't talk about it. You need more communication to help one another. Some people keep it inside. Mental abuse. Mental abuse is the worst. Worst is mental abuse. My sister has mental abuse by her spouse. And mental abuse, like physical abuse, you can see it, but mental abuse, you cannot see it. And it's something that keep people down, and if you don't talk about it, you cannot get a solution for it.
What kind of support systems do you think are essential for individuals dealing with depression?
I think it's very important to have your family or loved ones that can help you, someone to talk to, because sometimes when you're just by yourself at home, or, some people try to, go to places to basically take away the depression or use material things, and sometimes that doesn't even help. That's not enough. So I think it's very important to have like a support team, someone that you can talk to. In that sense, I have my family. I would always talk to them. But that wasn't really much the whole thing that helped me a lot. What helped me a lot was beyond that. Obviously, it's more how someone feels spiritually, how someone feels with their emotions, their feelings, their thoughts, right? So I think it's very important that you can speak to someone about your problems and find help somewhere.
I think more help for the homeless, most of all. Because a lot of the depression is bearing on people, so they turn to the street because they can't afford a place to live and so forth. And I mean, God bless those who can afford or can barely afford to.
Like, you need family, you need community, you need even your church. You can talk to somebody who understands you, who can listen. Listen is the key. And it's important to listen, and you listen, you have solution. And you have to talk about your problem. You have to let people know, and don't be ashamed. Because I know lots of people be ashamed to talk when they have physical abuse. Physical abuse is easy to you can see, but mental abuse you cannot see that. That is inside, and it's inside your mind. It's like somebody put you down.
I think like loved ones, family, friends, anyone that can like influence you in the right way and get you in better spirits. I also think like your environment, like if you're in a very dark environment, like surrounding yourself with that type of energy, that crowd, it just doesn't help you. So to elevate yourself, you gotta find more positive people, spend time with loved ones, etc.
Do you think there is enough awareness about depression in our community?
No. Like, we need more help. Like depression, it's like everything is different for other people, and it's community, economics, everything. Job, it's everything.
I think there's like a good amount of awareness. Like, I wouldn't say like there's a lot. I think social media helps. Like, I see like now my generation like seeing TikTok and stuff, I see more videos. So I think it's like, I'd say it's above average, but I think obviously there's still improvement that could be made, and like,
No, I think there could be more.
I think they're now trying to speak more about it, because it's very common now that a lot of people have suicidal thoughts, are depressed, are experiencing things that they don't want to speak to other people because they're afraid that they're the only ones who are experiencing it. But I think now in like 2023, a lot of people are speaking about it. A lot of people are trying to do, projects of, there's a helpline to call, or there's a place that you can go to get help. So I think now they're speaking more about it. Before it wasn't too much, they would hide it a little bit, but now it's like because everyone is more open about it, everyone is trying to help more with that situation.
I have to know how my brain works in order to catch it from doing bad things, because the brain is really tricky and it will tell you things that aren't true. And so knowing that I would remember a negative experience more than I'd remember a positive, I would really make it my mission to go, okay, but the positive experiences with that person were equal. I'm gonna choose to let that negative experience go. It's hard to put into words, honestly, and it feels different at different times. When my anxiety is high, it feels like an absolute inability to make decisions. Like, I would rather not do something than decide what to do. And it's almost paralyzing, which is odd, because it seems like it's simple. Do you want to go on a walk or sit on the couch and watch TV? And I'm like, I can't figure that out. I don't have the brain power. It feels like decision fatigue. And then depression is different. My version of it feels very restricted, like if you're trying to put on like a latex glove that's way too small for your hand. Also, it sort of coincides with this feeling of not being excited about anything, which again, on a day when you feel great or even normal, you can get excited about things. Like you're like, oh, I'm gonna have pizza today, or I'm gonna see a friend today, or all of the fun things about life. And when I'm having depression, it's like none of those things are exciting or seem worth it. So there's this real disconnect, because I know logically that should be a feeling that induces some happiness, but it's like my depression will not let me recognize those feelings. At 40, I don't believe anything should be taboo anymore. Like, I talked to my kids about sex, and yes, they're very young, but they wanted to know how they got here, and we talked about it, and they were grossed out and left the room, and that's fine. But I think that anything that's taboo and hard to talk about should be some of the first priorities you should be talking about with the support systems in your life. I wish that I had known as a person in the public eye to talk about it publicly at an earlier date. I had been acting and doing publicity for a while, and I was at the last stretch of 2 movies of a press tour, and I'd done all these interviews, and I was lying in bed about to do Sam Jones, which is a long form interview. Like, it's like a 45-minute to an hour sit down. So you better be prepared to talk, right? And I said to my husband, God, I have nothing to talk about. I feel exhausted. Like, I've said every story about my life. And he said, why don't you talk about your struggle with anxiety and depression? And it was a huge light bulb. I was like, I've never done that. I was experiencing the same thing that everyone else was, which is like, well, just don't talk about that. And then I just felt so inauthentic and irresponsible to have been presenting this bubbly, happy person, which is someone that I cultivate and I nurture and I try really hard to exist as. And I just wasn't being honest with the people, the girls who may look up to me. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna talk about it. And so I don't even think that Sam knew, but during that interview, I was like, actually, for a period of my life, and periods, and often, and sometimes just on a random Wednesday, I feel this way. And then we started to get more in depth, and I found myself really happy to be admitting all of it. And the response I got from that interview was astounding to me. So many people saying, I've felt that way too. Thank you for saying it out loud. You gave me the courage to say it out loud, which I did practically nothing other than do what I should do, which is be honest and authentic. And it was a huge turning point in my life. I just felt a huge sense of responsibility. And so I kept talking about it, and I talk about it a lot. And here we are.
And we're back with all of you. Lupita, one of the things that I think, and I'm already going to go out and speak a little bit of what I think. Sometimes there are people who are depressed, right? But they're not asking for help. Because I think depression is something that is not loud enough to say, hey, help me. There are some people who get depressed to the extent where they don't want nobody to be next to them. They lock themselves in a room. They don't want to talk to anybody. I can't speak for everybody, but I can speak for myself. When I had depression or felt depression, I didn't want nobody to say, hey, we can help you out. I didn't want that. I wanted to be by myself. I wanted to be away from people. So, you know, Lupita, for this person who watches us, they can give us a call. Maybe they can, if they've ever gone through a period of time in their lives where they felt depressed, they can also talk to us, 877-785-8700. If them right now, they feel like this, they feel depressed, 437-233-9815. Do you have any comments?
Yes, so I have here Ashley's comment. She goes, depression exists. Sometimes it's not easily seen as depression. There are people out there who have depression but don't see it. Some people think it's just in your head and others think it's because of stress. It's very hard for people without depression to understand what it is. And we have Tayaba here from Toronto. She says, depression is a disease. Yes, that. Just like you cannot control when you fall ill, and when you do, you cannot control the bouts of depression that hit on you. You just cannot. Let's stop calling these people weak. They go through their personal hell all too often, and they pull through. They are survivors also. So we have their comments, and you could continue participating of the poll. The QR code will be right there on the bottom of your screen so that you can cast your vote throughout the program.
And we ask you the question, how does depression affect the brain? How does being sad or feeling exactly what you feel, how does that affect the way you think? Again, if you want to speak your mind, you can definitely do so, but I want you to pay attention to our following segment, and we'll be right back.
The current standard of care for the treatment of depression is based on what we call the monoamine deficiency hypothesis, essentially presuming that one of 3 neurotransmitters in the brain is deficient or underactive.
Neurotransmitters can be thought of as the chemical messengers within the brain. It's what helps one cell in the brain communicate with another to pass that message along.
But the reality is there are more than 100 neurotransmitters in the brain and billions of connections between neurons. So we know that that's a limited hypothesis.
For decades, we thought that the primary pathology, the primary cause of depression, was some abnormality in these neurotransmitters, specifically serotonin or norepinephrine.
However, norepinephrine and serotonin did not seem to be able to account for the symptoms of depression in people who had major depression. Instead, the chemical messengers between the nerve cells in the higher centers of the brain involved in regulating mood and emotion, which include glutamate and GABA, were possibilities as alternative causes for the symptoms of depression.
We know that these two, which are the most ubiquitous and abundant neurotransmitters in the brain, actually regulate how the brain is changing over time and adapting.
When you are exposed to severe and chronic stress, like people experience when they have depression, you lose some of the connections between the nerve cells, and the communication in these circuits becomes inefficient and noisy. Because of the noisy communication in the circuits involved in regulating mood and emotion, we think that the loss of these synaptic connections contributes to the biology of depression.
It's critical to understand the neurobiology of depression and how the brain plays a role in that for 2 main reasons. One, it helps us understand how the disease develops and progresses, and we can start to target treatments based on that.
There are clear differences between a healthy brain and a depressed brain. And the exciting thing is, when you treat that depression effectively, the brain goes back to looking like a healthy brain.
We recognize that the treatment for depression is a long-term process because for many people, depression is a long-term disorder. So we need new treatments. We've needed new ways to approach depression for people that haven't responded well to their prior treatments.
We are in a new era of psychiatry. This is a paradigm shift away from a model of monoaminergic deficiency to a fuller understanding of the brain as a complex neurochemical organ.
Depression, it's sort of a way of functioning.
It's an illness. It's part of science. You can't really get rid of it.
There is so much about depression that is still not understood.
This does exist, and it is a thing.
I suffered from depression since I was 13 years old.
I was around 19.
15.
13.
14.
13. 14. My depression really kicked in.
I didn't know what depression was. I'm not sure if I had even heard about it. I just knew that I felt different within myself.
I felt like a bit of an outcast. I felt like I wasn't normal.
How can I put it? It's kind of like ivy. It's like ivy. You know, you can cut it off here, but it grows back up there.
You don't know when or how it's going to hit, but sometimes it does, and the hardest bit is just keeping going.
You feel like there is nothing in the world that's going to make you better, and you feel as though there's just no point.
You can see people around you that love you and how much they love you, but you can't feel any of that love.
It's crippling sometimes.
For a lot of people, there is still a stigma.
I think the misconceptions about it is that it affects everyone in the same way.
Not only is it a stigma in the non-Muslim community, there's also a huge stigma in the Muslim community.
In my community, if you have a mental health issue, it's just not normal.
You know, in the African and Caribbean cultures, you just have to kind of get on with life.
Sometimes people tell you to just think of life differently, just be happy, but it doesn't work like that.
You don't want to feel like it's the only thing that can describe you.
I'd be really, really upset if people start to stroke my hair and go, oh no, poor you, you know. Whereas if they took me out and called me an idiot, I'd be the happiest man on earth.
We just want people to listen to us and not really judge us.
Sometimes just being in the same room as friends and loved ones has been enough to help me a little bit.
Be there, offer emotional guidance and support.
To have someone just say, I'm here if you need anything, that for me made all the difference.
I wouldn't be who I am without depression. And I love the person I am. I never thought I'd say that.
And we're back with all of you. Lupita, we had a poll since the beginning of our program. I wanted to see if you have the results for them.
Yes, so our poll, it has now ended. We had 52% that voted for a silent personal struggle. We had 47% that voted for it is a cry for help. And we had the 19% that went with they'll get over it. So everyone voted and they put in their votes, and that was the poll for today.
Let's see if we can put back the poll on the screen. Yes, perfect, thank you. So 52%, a silent personal struggle. Okay, when we say that it's a silent personal struggle, and when we want to show you that there are some people who don't really want to ask for help, I think that's one of the things that can even go wrong with somebody who suffers with depression. Because it's so based on an emotion and what you feel in that moment, it can drag you down. And that's why it's important not to hold on a certain belief, but to see what even God is able to say, what Jesus shows us. So in the book of John, he says like this, "In the world you will have tribulation, but be of good cheer. I have overcome the world." Jesus said that in this world we would have tribulation. Tribulation are those moments of pain. Tribulation are those moments of deceit, those moments where we feel betrayed, those moments where we don't even know how to react. In those moments is where we stand firm, but not on what we feel, not on being alone, not on isolating ourselves. On the contrary, we stay firm on Jesus. And he says, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. If Jesus was able to go through what he went through and still come out strong and still be victorious, I promise you, you will go through what you go through. But if you remain firm, you will be able to see also what Jesus was able to see. And that was the power of God. And that's why I want to show you Jaime's story, so that you can be able to see. Some people, they also do go through what we go through. We can relate. And when we come back, we're going to give you the opportunity of where you can be able to find this new life. We'll be back.
I had come into a situation where I was by myself with 2 kids, and it just felt like a mountain on top of me. So I fell into a depression. I stopped working for a little bit with each birth, and when the second one came, it just became a lot because I was by myself. I didn't care about myself. I didn't try to put myself together. I didn't do my hair. I didn't try to look nice. I just took care of the kids. So I basically neglected myself. It was like forcing myself every day to do things. I felt like, nobody understood and nobody was supporting me because, when you make a wrong decision and people kind of warn you, you feel stupid and you feel alone. You feel like you have to go through that alone. I had bad thoughts too. I had thoughts of, I was seeing images of my child, dead, and, I thought about dying, and I started to go to therapy. At first I was happy to have a place to talk about it. But then I realized talking isn't enough. My life was still the same. I still was alone. I still was doing everything by myself. And while it was nice to talk to somebody about it, you feel like you want to take an action at that point. So I stopped going to therapy. I used to pass by the construction site and saw the church being constructed, what's the Universal Church now on Fulton Street. My mother, she said she put my name in the prayer book, and I got a call. and that prompted me to, to just go. When I came, it was a Sunday, and it was a very, different kind of a service, inspiring service, and I felt great. But I think one of the things that kind of allowed me to receive that day was because I was able to put the kids in Bible school. So I could put them there and I could focus, because I had gone to different churches, and the time I had gone, they didn't have a place for the kids. So I was just busy fussing with them and I couldn't listen to the message. But I was able to listen and receive the message and learn about how to overcome your problems. And I took it, and I was hungry for that because I didn't want to feel that way. I didn't want to be depressed. I did go to the chains of prayer on Fridays, and you get delivered. Receiving the prayer and doing the purposes on Fridays, and I wasn't depressed anymore. After some time with the deliverance service, I wasn't depressed anymore, and I was looking higher. I was looking, at goals. I was setting new goals for myself spiritually. The bishop and the pastors will talk about, if you want to keep the evil away, you really need to have the Holy Spirit. And doing the chain of prayer for Wednesday and just being part of the night of salvation in general, I felt a relief. The day I received the Holy Spirit, I felt like nothing else mattered but me and God. And, the problems, they seem so small, and I felt comforted. I felt taken care of. I've been free from depression for 11 years with no relapse. I've not neglected myself. I love myself. I don't want to die. I want to live for, my kids. I want to do things. I want to accomplish things. So this message is for anyone who's going through depression. On October 11th at every Universal Church, there's going to be the event Defeat Depression. Come and you'll learn how to overcome. You'll learn the steps to take, and you won't regret it. Depression will leave you and you'll be a new person. Defeat depression.
And you see how when somebody asks for help in the right area, they're able to not look back and return to that life. I don't know who you are on the other side of the screen, but one of the things I can tell you, it's been 13 years since I last felt empty. 13 years since I last felt like I was lonely. 13 years since I last felt depression. And I don't feel that anymore. I've never had moments of depression. Ever since then, I've never felt as if I was going to be depressed. No. Moments of difficulty, tribulations, oh, of course. But Jesus said, be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. If you want to know how to put an end to this suffering, this Sunday, 10 o'clock in the morning, we're located here in Toronto, in York. If I'm not mistaken, Farm Village, 2420 Dufferin Street. We're right there on the corner of Bowie Avenue. We're about a block and a half from Eglinton Avenue. You can take the 29 bus, the 929 bus. You can take the line 1 to Eglinton Avenue, have a 10-minute walk, and you're going to be right here, right in front of our temple. It's in that place where many lives are transformed, and you can be one more. You can be somebody who sees the power of God in their lives. All right? I want to leave you with this last song so that you can listen to something that's positive. So you can listen to something to occupy your mind. All right? Sunday, I'll see you here. 10 o'clock in the morning, 2420 Dufferin Street. God bless all of you. See you soon.
Lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from my Lord, who made heaven and earth. He won't let my foot be moved. He who keeps
Join thousands of people every Sunday at 10 a.m. in one faith. Based on this word, again, I say to you that if two of you agree on earth concerning anything that they ask, it will be done for them by my Father in heaven. Matthew 18:19. Receive the 7 prayers.
I don't know how long I had that disease, but the way I found out is I had went to the doctor to have my annual physical. So they called me about the results and told me to get to the hospital because my sugar was so high that was threatening a stroke. So I participated in drinking the blessed water. Faithfully, I did it every day. I just continued in my faith and coming to the church and fighting against it.
Deliverance.
I was a victim of witchcraft. My mother sacrificed me since I was young. I couldn't walk. I was paralyzed for a long time. I don't remember half of my life. I remember being in the hospital. It was King County Hospital. I remember that I had to learn how to walk. I had to learn how to write. I saw demons. People think that evil's not real. It is real. I went to a lot of churches, like 23 Christian church. And I never felt like I felt when I came to the Universal Church. But when I came to this ministry, from the very first time that I stepped through that door, I knew there was hope in this church.
Prosperity.
I had a business that was doing at one point rather well and went down substantially, and experienced just hard times trying to bring it up. I experienced also 3 deaths in my family. My mother, my father, my brother passed away. Then we had the recession, and I really never recovered from that. And it's still hard times, but since I've been coming to the church here, my business is starting to recoup. I see opportunities where my phone is ringing. I want this house built. I want this done. I want this done. My business is starting to take off to another dimension.
Family.
I was about to separate with my husband, and during the time I was coming to church, I learned to forgive. And when I learned to forgive, I started working on my relationship with my husband. And when my husband never opened up to me, never told me what was going on with his life, until one day I got a knock on the front door, and it turned out to be the police. And I had to learn, okay, God, you are here. I learned through the church, through tribulations, you use your faith. And that's when I said, hey, that God is talking to me. This is a way I'm gonna find a solution to my problem.
Love life.
My husband and I were very happy, loving. Everybody in the neighborhood know us and always want their relationship to be like our relationship. Our relationship was an example that people wants to follow. Until one day I found out that my husband had someone else. And that turned me into a bitter and an angry person. Me surrendering my life to the Lord, I got baptized, was filled with the Holy Spirit. Now I have no hate. I'm not angry. I want to even save other people. Try to counsel other people who are going through problems in their marriage.
Encounter with God.
The suffering in my life, it started with me just basically having pain all over my body. And my mom took me to the doctor. They could not figure out what was wrong with me. I started having headaches, and the headaches get worse. It would go like from maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. Then I started to have stomach pain. My whole body was in pain. And I just felt like something, just like a brick drop on my head. And I had that headache. It was so bad. And I was sweating. I felt like I was going to pass out. I wake up one Sunday morning and I'm coming to church and I'm like, I'm not leaving the church today without giving my life to God. I'm going to baptize today. And I came to church. Service is finished. I got baptized and I never looked back.
Temple of Miracles, 2420 Dufferin Street, Toronto. 2420 Dufferin Street, Toronto. And every Universal Church countrywide.